What is it you want, Barry? What do you want? You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying times here.
Come with me if you want to live.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
The Force will be with you, always.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to 20th Century Geek. I'm your regular host, Scott Weatherly, and we are back on the Superman train, but completing the Snyder vision, and who better to join me than my Snyder companion, Max Byrne. Max, how are you doing?
I'm great, Scott. I'm great. I'm sweating away in the very hot northwest of England as we record this. It is hot tonight. But yeah, I'm here. I'm delighted to round off the Snyder trilogy, for want of a better description. Yeah, it's been an interesting few discussions, I would say.
Yeah, and it's been kind of leading to this. I mean, I think we are, Superman's been the link through all of these films I'm doing up to the new Superman. But like with this Snyder cut and with the Snyder thing, Superman is the key. I mean, he is a sort of the central part of this. But yeah, this trilogy is of a piece. What actually, having watched it now in relatively quick succession, it's fascinating to see more of that sort of interconnected that I can see that Snyder was going for when you watch the Snyder versions. So yes, we are going to be talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League from technically 2016, but wasn't released until 2021. And of course, we will touch on the 2016 version, the often referred to as the Justice League, and things like that. As to what sort of, I don't want to dive into the whats and wheres and whys. That's covered in a lot of other places, but we may end up talking about little bits. But there are comparisons that are worth making, I think, in some places. But let's start then. Having gone through all that and now done the sort of the 4-hour Justice League, what are your initial thoughts? Where do you want to start? Where is there to start then with this behemoth that we have?
Wow, I mean, there's so much going on in that film. It really is a kitchen sink kind of movie. It's just got everything in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if we lived in a parallel universe where, like you said, it's been, publicized and discussed ad nauseum, all the chain of events that were going on behind the scenes and all the, Joss Whedon and his horrific behaviors and Warner Brothers chopping and changing and the awful personal tragedy that Zack Snyder went through that led to him stepping off before he could finish his cut of this film. But I think if we lived in a parallel universe where none of those events happened and Snyder was able to just complete his film unfettered and uninterfered with, we certainly wouldn't have had this 4-hour monster of a film. There would have been some hard cuts.
Yes.
And what was put into cinemas, because obviously this Snyder cut never got a cinematic release anyway. I think they had some small showings here and there in America, but certainly not in the UK where we're from. It never got a cinematic release, which is a shame because I would love to see this on the big screen. Actually.
I think it would look great on the big screen. I think I would need an intermission at some point. Not sure my bladder could take the 4-hour sitting, but yes, I think it would look great.
Yeah. Oh, me too. Me too.
Yeah.
3 hours is my absolute maximum, being able to sit in one place in the theatre. So yeah, I think we would have got something around the 3-hour mark.
I think so.
Released. I understand what Warner Brothers' strategy was with Justice League, where they said the mandate was it must not be more than 2 hours. It simply mustn't, so they could get more screenings in throughout the day. But I think that was a very short-sighted view by them. If you look at the biggest films of all time, they're all 3 hours long. Avengers Endgame, Avatar, Titanic. So that's myth.
The Godfather. Not even like modern films, like even classics. Like, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's a myth that 3-hour films don't make money because that's complete nonsense. But yeah, it would have been a very different beast, and perhaps this would have eventually surfaced as a home release after the event. Snyder does love his director's cuts, that's for sure. But yeah, I'm certainly grateful it exists.
Absolutely.
Again, the whole movement to get it released. I'm glad what came out of it. I don't appreciate some of the behaviors of some of the people, the people who take things to the nth degree. But on the flip side, I recognize the good that was done with the Snyder Cut. And, they raise a lot of money for suicide prevention charities and mental health charities in America who were selling all the merchandise and that. So there was a lot of good to come out of it. And ultimately, we get this film, which I'm grateful we finally got. It's just a shame we had to go down the road we had to go down to get it in the end. But I think it's a really, really good film, I must say.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, I watched it, and it's a good film. It's a solid film. I think is where I'm at. I think you're right. There's almost like there's a version of this that would have been almost forced on Snyder, which I think he's probably rubbed against or whatever. But if you took let's say we took the good lessons from Man of Steel and BVS. I mean, as we said, like you and I both watched the ultimate version of BVS. And we both agree that it is a superior version. It adds in much needed material and character beats and stuff, and so it's actually a much better film. So I think you need to take that lesson of you need to have all the character beats. Don't need a bunch of women singing and hugging a jumper in an Icelandic village.
No, we do not.
There's a couple of things. There are a couple of things in this when you watch it and you do sort of go. Instant cutting room floor like that. That doesn't need to happen. But it is definitely it's a better version of this. The Justice League. Well, not because I watched both in quick succession.
Yeah.
And as I watched it, I had in mind the Avengers because I think that's clearly the template that the directive that Joss Whedon was given. It's lighter. It's got these things in it. It kind of in its need to fulfill its purpose of being less than 2 hours. It's exactly 2 hours. I mean, it literally comes in at like 120 minutes. It compresses things to such a degree that it's kind of jarring in certain places where there's massive leaps of logic and there's all these other bits that you just sort of go, okay.
Yeah,
fine. That seems to make sense for this, and so it isn't a good film. It's not a bad. No, it's like a popcorn. It's I know you've probably got you've watched these things, but it felt akin to me to like the Sony Spider-Man films. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like they've gone. Here's an idea, and we're going to compress it into this thing, and we're going to give it this idea. And you watch it, and you go like, "Oh, yeah, no, this doesn't." Morbius kind of makes sense, but not in this way, or like the Venom. It's like watching Venom and going like, "Yeah, it's all right. This is good fun." And then someone telling you like, "But there's a version of this that's like got the full story," and you go, "Oh, well, I definitely want to see that." And then to watch the full version, you go, "Oh." There's a good 3-hour, 15-minute film in here that's like tight and would have been an absolute barnstormer if he'd have been given the opportunity. And I think that's the sadness of this is we get I'm so for all the Zack Snyder fans, so glad this exists. I'm so glad they won on this front. And like yourself, I'm not always keen on their behaviours especially about the newer DC films, but. They got what they wanted, and I think they got what they deserved, they got what they wanted. But I also watch this and go, if only Snyder had been a little bit more self-conscious in the editing suite, this would be even better. That's the note I keep taking from this.
I agree, definitely. I mean, to circle back to what you were saying about the theatrical core, the Justice League, whatever you want to call it. I agree. It is far too pushed in together. You're basically introducing out for the first time, bar some very small bits of security footage of BVS. You're introducing Cyborg, The Flash, and Aquaman to the proceedings, who prior to this point haven't done anything in this universe. And you're not only introducing them, they're forming this team and blah, 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 blah. But there's no time spent getting to know those characters before they suit up and they're in the thick of it. At least in Snyder's version, they fill in the backstory. I mean, I really, really do like the Cyborg backstory where his father lays out, and they really do a good job as well of showcasing just how powerful he is as well and what he can do. He can literally do anything. And he, there's a great line from his father saying, the big test for you will not to be what you can do, it'll be not doing what you can do, because the temptation is so amazing, and obviously the only thing he does succumb to is helping that lady out by giving her a lot of money in a bank account, which is quite a noble gesture, I suppose. But yeah, I think Snyder's version is so long because he felt empowered to do whatever he wanted to do.
Absolutely.
This huge backlash with Justice League and the way Snyder was treated by Warner Brothers and the alleged bad behavior from people like Joss Whedon and Jeff Johns on the set of Justice League. That's been well documented. A lot of the cast of this film have been vocal about the way they were treated as well. So I think Warner Brothers were trying to not save face, but perhaps restore some goodwill, and obviously, give Snyder more of a happy ending and get him to finish his film, which obviously he couldn't due to horrific personal circumstances, and obviously his poor treatment at the hands of WB. So I think he felt empowered to just put everything he'd shot into this film. And not only that, they gave him money to shoot more stuff as well.
Finish off.
The stuff at the end, the future set scene with Jared Leto's Joker, that was all newly shot. The end sequence as well with Martian Manhunter was newly shot. So, they gave him a lot to do. They gave him like $70 million or something, I read, to finish all the visual effects, because they weren't finished on his original cut, because he obviously stopped before then. So obviously that's a timely process, and to shoot this new stuff. I mean, it does show, though, doesn't it? There's some very, very much shots in this that you can see a million miles away are reused from previous films. The end of Man of Steel is reused for that future shot where he's holding Lois's skeleton, I guess he does, and Darkseid comes up behind him and puts his hand on his shoulder. That's completely the shot from Zod's death at the end of Man of Steel, just repurposed. That shot of Luthor at the start in the birthing pool, noticing Superman's cry ringing out across the world. Again, that's very much repurposed.
It's repurposed, which is fine, and I'm always good. In fact, that's a good use of footage and some good editing.
Yeah,
I would also say that sometimes, especially towards the end, those extra scenes that were filmed, you can kind of tell there are certain bits when you sort of go like, oh, the lighting and things on this feel a little different, like a little flatter and stuff. But it's fine. Like you say, it does what it needs to. And you're right. I think it is that thing of like, I can do anything. I can put it all in. And you're right. I think of the sort of Cyborg is the one that benefits the most.
Yeah, he was very much a really badly served character in this.
Oh, absolutely.
But he's the MVP here, I suppose.
Yeah, it's I'm going to say something controversial, I think, because, or maybe not, I don't know. But having watched this, I do think that Cyborg story expansion, it makes it so much more interesting, because before, in the other version, he's kind of just grumpy all the time, but there's no kind of exploration of that. Yeah. And you're so like, oh, he's just a dick. He just comes across like grumpy all the time. At least with this, it gives that thing of like, what he's lost, where his guilt lies, where his anger is, like why he feels this conflicting of emotions and like of what he is and all this other stuff. So I like the fact that they go into that, and you say like this temptation of like everything he can do. Like he wakes up in the morning and he's like, now I can fly, or now I can access the entire internet. Like there's things keep happening to me. Like I can't sit still. That's kind of scary. Like if time you I don't know, reboot or whatever he does, new information's coming. That would be quite scary. So I like the way it deals with that story. And I'm also weirdly Joe Morton, who plays his dad, Dr. Stone, he's one of those actors. He's one of those sort of actors, he sort of just turns up and you're like, oh, I know him, I like him. Like,
he's always good, isn't he?
He's always good. Like I'm always glad to see him around. So whenever I see him in things, the Flash, although his story is compressed, weirdly doesn't change at all. And I think this is part down to like, the Flash is almost a non-entity in parts of this film. And we'll get to the ending of how he's like critical to the ending, but like there is no build up to that ending. And so it does feel kind of odd. The other thing I'll say, the controversial thing I'll say, Cyborg's story is much, much better. Yeah. And I like a lot of it. Ray Fisher is awful.
Oh, I don't think he's the greatest actor in the world, shall we say. I think he's trying to play it. He's trying to play it deadpan and monotone, isn't he? Because he's supposed to be, more machine than man at this point. But yeah, I know what you mean. Obviously, physically, he looks
He's
the
fine.
part.
Yeah.
He looks like what you'd expect. In the flashback scenes, he's convincing as some, star athlete, member of the football team, etc. He looks like he's come off the comic book page, like a lot of Snyder's casting, to be fair. But yeah, he's not the greatest actor in the world. He was certainly the most vocal post release about their treatment. So to his detriment, I would say.
Exactly, I agree. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not going to criticize a man for speaking his truth.
Oh no.
I think a lot of what he said seemed to be grounded in reality as well.
I think there's ways and means of doing things. Yeah, I may not agree with it. I may not agree with the forums he used for all of his outbursts, but I agree. Dude was saying things. I think the problem is that when you've got someone, let's scratch Henry Cavill because he doesn't really come back till later in the film.
Yeah, it's like 3 hours in.
Yeah, like a guest star.
Yeah,
but when you've got sort of personalities like Ben Affleck's Batman, Jason Momoa, Ezra Miller, who is great on me, but is still, at least he's different. Gal Gadot, not the greatest actress, but she has a charisma and a presence that she works as Wonder Woman. You've got Jeremy Irons, Diane Lane. You've got all these, Connie Nielsen. Like throughout this film, you've just got these stars. And I think the problem is that Ray Fisher just doesn't compete on that level, and so unfortunately looks worse by comparison.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he was a virtual unknown, wasn't he?
Yeah.
When they started announcing casting, well, they would have announced this for BVS, of course, because they were introduced there. And I remember thinking, Ray, who?
Yeah.
I don't know who that is at all. Not that that's a problem, because I think with comic book characters, casting unknowns is sometimes better because you can buy into them being the character more.
Yes,
because they don't come with all that preconceived baggage of
who the actor is,
what they've done before. Virtually we've said on previous episodes, virtually every Superman that's been cast has been pretty much unknown at the time. Reeve, Ralph, Cavill, and now Corrinswet. Not many people were familiar with them before they were cast, so it works fine now. I've not a problem with that at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think he doesn't quite convey the emotional heft of what the character has to do. The character has to go on an emotional journey from being, like you said, very sulky and seething and angry at the world and hating his father, to coming full circle and stepping up to be a hero and working well with others and coming to some form of reconciliation with his father, albeit a bit too late. But although not in the theatrical cut, they changed that, didn't they?
They do.
Silas Stone lives in that,
yeah.
Which I suppose it was an interesting choice, killing him off, actually, because I think if they were going to ever press ahead and do a cyborg movie, solo film, that's one of the main key supporting characters in the cyborg lore is gone. So I don't know what they would have done in said film as to like who he would have interacted with as such. But yeah, I know what you mean. I agree. He's not amazing. I think he does okay, and I don't quite say he was as awful as much as you might, but I don't think he's great at all. No. I do agree.
But beyond that, the cast I think are mostly really good. I think they're all solid. I think we've said about how much Ben Affleck works as Batman. Absolutely superb. I think the cast all work. The thing again, I'm not gonna. This does a lot of things that a lot of films do, and it's kind of like funny choices. And I think it's that sort of. I think again we talked about it in the last episode of like things that people like Snyder and Michael Bay and that will do. And it opens. The other thing is, like, this film has multiple beginnings. It has like several starts. It's like, every for the first like
Endings as well.
yeah, it is. It's like the bloody Lord of the Rings. It's like every sort of 15 minutes, there's like a new. You go, oh, this feels like the opening of a film. Wonder Woman's introduction is cool. It's in London. She's obviously working at in London, and there's the Old Bailey gets attacked and everything. She spends 10 minutes fighting to protect all the people and defend these people in a sort of a stealth way. She disarms the bomb, jumps into the air, throws it up, and it gets dismantled. It gets blows up. Comes down to the down, right? Slams her wrists together to blow out the front of the Old Bailey, covering everybody else outside in glass and rubble and wood. And you just go, you just stopped a bomb, but then you've just caused like millions of pounds of damage to a sort of an architectural like landmark in London. Like, it's a really weird choice.
And there's no way that head terrorist survived that either. You see his silly little hat floating down afterwards, and so he's obviously been sort of obliterated into smithereens. Not that it would bother him, because he was willing, like seconds before, to die in the bomb anyway. So it's no skin off his nose, I guess. But yeah, I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. She's supposed to be there to defend everyone and save all those schoolgirls and what have you. And yeah, like, it's just, I suppose it goes back to that criticism people have of Snyder, the wanton destruction.
Well, it's sort of like he shows he's not going to do it, and then he does it, and you sort of go like, oh, okay. Because at the end of that scene, a girl comes up to Diana and says, I want to be just like you. And I'm going like, no, let's not have another generation of like just randomly killing people. Like, this is not good. So it has bits like that throughout the film. Let's talk about sort of the plot itself. I just want to sort of cover that. So the film has 4 hours. It has chapters. It has chapter headings and that sort of thing. And you have all their introductions. So we've talked about sort of like cyborgs and Batman is reintroduced. Diana's reintroduced. And we'll get to the Flash. Or the Flash's introduction is he goes to see his dad. He's trying to get a job at a dog walking or dog caring place, and then saves Iris West in a car accident, and then they have the slow-mo speed scene, which is now sort of obligatory. And it's fine. Like, it's kind of cool. I question some of the music choices, but like, it all feels very sort of like, cool. All right, you introduce these characters and get them on board. What's your take on this whole thing of like the world is in mourning for the loss of Superman, though?
It seems to come out. The world being in mourning seems to not quite track with the world distrusting him just prior to his death.
Yeah,
and the circumstances of his death are he dies fighting Doomsday. So he dies killing Doomsday, which obviously is a heroic self-sacrifice. But then if the public were sort of on the fence about him and what he is and who he is and his motives, surely they would associate the destructive nature of Doomsday with Superman, because he's a Kryptonian
being.
Obviously he's been made by Lex Luthor, etc., but he's a Kryptonian being. So is there not a perception of it's Superman cleaning up his own mess, so to speak? And he didn't save the world as such, he just killed Doomsday. Now, granted, if he hadn't, probably Doomsday would have been literally unstoppable, so maybe would have raised the planet, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, it does seem to be a bit like, wow, that's very much over the top. But I do like the way they do like give that reason that his death is the catalyst for the mother boxes waking up. They didn't do that so much in Justice League.
No, it's not touched on at all not explained at all.
Yeah, I mean, it just opens with that awful scene of him with his digitally removed mustache talking to those kids who are
Yeah.
interviewing him on the street, which is awful.
Yeah.
At least here, there's some consistency. But it literally opens with the end of the previous film,
Mm-hmm.
and it shows that literally being the thing that wakes the boxes up, because I guess it's Earth's mightiest defender is now dead, so Earth's open for the taking. I guess that's the message they're trying to convey.
Yeah.
But yeah, to go back to your original question, yeah, the mourning and the really over the top mourning doesn't quite jib with how they perceived him just prior to that. Yeah, it does seem a bit strange, doesn't it?
There is, yeah, because they have this sort of. There's two things. There's this kind of they talk about this like lack of hope. They go, oh, without Superman, there's this lack of hope, and Batman bangs on about it repeatedly. And you are going like, well, they weren't particularly hopeful in Batman v Superman. Like there was Metropolis kind of suggests that they're happy with him, but there's no like global recognition of him being this savior or like godlike figure. Other than they then generate this statue of him looking down, doing the whatever. But the thing that's sort of is weird as well for me when I get this explanation and you get the history of the mother boxes, the 3 mother boxes that have been one's in Atlantis, one's with the Amazons on Themyscira, and one was sort of hidden by the race of men. It's very Lord of the Rings, one for the elves, one for the dwarves, some for the tribes of men. What if it's Superman not being here any longer that triggers the box? Why did it not wake up before he arrived?
Yeah, they've been buried for 5,000 years ago, wasn't it? The battle that drove away Darkseid and his invading army. So what was this, the wonderful in a world that went through two world wars and all kinds of other horrors and atrocities in those 5,000 years. Superman was Superman in the public eye for like 18 months.
About that, yeah.
Man of Steel to his death in BVS is supposed to be an 18-month jump, isn't there, from Man of Steel to BVS?
Yeah.
So let's call it 2 years, being generous. So what was everything else? Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. What was everything else prior to that? I mean, obviously they need it as a plot device, and it works within the framework of the story they're trying to tell. But yeah, logically, it makes 0 sense, does it?
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, you could sort of feel the gap of like the energy released between the collision between Superman and Doomsday is to such a degree that it's that kind of meta-human collision that woke up the boxes, which I kind of put in my head canon. I'm like, oh, that's what it is. It was the death of, it's the collision that kills them both that wakes up the mother boxes. So I've inserted that into my head canon now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like it. But I kind of like though this idea that there's this that Batman's got this notion of like something's coming. I've just got this sense that like this is going to start something. Just because it kind of, I think it works quite well. Just from his kind of like his level of paranoia is just sort of like I have his superhuman ability is paranoia. Oh, someone come out to get me.
We had those visions of the future, didn't he?
Yeah.
In BVS, which again makes no sense, but there we go.
Yeah, but they kind of work for this because you do get a little bit of that, and it's obviously it would have been what the future is in a future Justice League film. But the opening of the mother boxes, the attack, what's his name, the Steppenwolf,
yeah,
the arrival of Steppenwolf. And to come and we find that he's been exiled by Darkseid for fouling up at some point.
Yeah.
By the way, completely changed for the Justice League movie. It isn't Darkseid that invaded 1,000 or 5,000 years ago. It was Steppenwolf, and Steppenwolf was defeated, and that's why he was exiled. So it's all very Earth centric. So the big Snyder's version focuses on the Darkseid coming and obviously being able to complete his anti-life equation, and it's on this planet hidden somewhere, and that's what the big Omega sign is in the Nightmare vision. I like all that. But then the attack on Themyscira from Steppenwolf. Yeah, well, I'll ask you, what are your thoughts then? Because that's where it's sort of like this film sort of really kicks in, where it's like, you get the attack on that sort of triggers the box kind of scenario.
Yeah, I think it's a really good action set piece. I mean, they do a good job of showcasing what a incredibly formidable, incredibly strong being he is that's virtually unstoppable. And again, the way they change his appearance completely in the Justice League version, I don't know what the thought process was there at all. I'd love to sit down with the decision makers and go, why did you completely change his appearance from what is a really evil looking,
the rippling bladed armor thing is ace.
Yeah, and he has an evil, like, demonic face, and they just completely changed it for armor that looks like what Gary Oldman wears at the start of Bram Stoker's Dracula, for God's sake.
I can give you one reason I can guess.
Go on.
Easier to make as a toy.
I guess so. But yeah, it was a very, very poor substitution for the theatrical cut.
It is.
But that scene, it's very good. I mean, it highlights the Amazonian culture really well. You know, when she says, "Amazons, show him your fear," and to a woman they all chant out, "We have no fear," you know. But then, the fact that he's able to just go through them like a freight train. These are the finest warriors on planet Earth, and they're nothing to him. It's a really good set piece. I really like the way they try and keep the box constantly in forward motion out of his reach. It's a really, really thrilling set piece, actually, and I really like the end as well, where he's about to finally maybe get overwhelmed because there's a massive legion of them coming over the hill again. Very Lord of the Rings. It's like the end of the battle at the end of the Two Towers, where the cavalry comes over the hill at the opportune moment, but obviously Boone chews out of there at the last second. But it's a thrilling set piece. I think it's really good. I think for a film that for its first 2 hours is very scarce on action. This is needed. It is needed because it worked. The first 2 hours is a very sort of it's like reading a graphic novel in a way. It's a very glacial pace. It's telling the story. It's investing in character. Yeah. It's not set piece here, set piece there. There's very little. Just this. Then there's the one where he takes the box in Atlantis, which is a lot shorter scene. It is 2 hours in before Batman puts his costume on, and we get that under the river. Yeah. So it's very much needed this. I don't know how long it's into the film, 20, 25 minutes, something like that.
Yeah,
maybe.
about half an hour in. Yeah.
But I think it's great. Do you like it?
I do. No, I think the thing is, this is where I think Snyder thrives. I mean, this is like 300. This is like like Sucker Punch. This is all those kind of like. I watched Sucker Punch at the weekend for Stories Out of Time and Space, and I have issues with that film and some of its representations of women and stuff like considering it's supposed to be it's a feminist film, but I'm going to shoot lots of scantily clad bottoms, and you go like, oh, I'm not going to oppose that, but but whenever that thing is in action, that film is an absolute visual masterpiece, and I think this is where he comes to. This whole scene of the Amazons, I think, is one of those scenes. I'm like, this is one of those top 5 moments in the film. Actually, it shows how good he is. It's an early scene that sets up how dangerous Steppenwolf is, because we recognise how good the Amazons are. From you've had the Wonder Woman film, and you've seen sort of obviously Wonder Woman in BVS, but also like he's not trying to sort of like do it by dumbing down the Amazons. I mean, he hired women that are like, these women are like pure athletes. Like the two women that are like holding up the wall that's coming down, the stone door. Like, it comes past them, and you just got these. And they're beautiful, but like really like bodybuilder coming. And you're going like, Jesus Christ! Like these are kind of like he's gone out and said, no, this is what the Amazons are. These are warrior women, and you go like, yes, they are. Like. Yeah. And so I love how this all works. Connie Nielsen does a great job in this. And I love the way it's shot. I think it looks really good. But the other thing that this one sort of hammers home is the end of the scene is It's. I mean, strategically speaking, having it on the edge of a cliff, the mother box in this domed thing on the edge of a cliff, not the best. Clearly you want to put it somewhere like in a mountain or something. But knowing that many of the Amazons have been trapped in there, and it falls into the sea, and they think, because they're all still fighting Steppenwolf as it collapses into the sea. Like you feel that, like, oh, that's a sacrifice. Like these Amazons, these women have sort of, they've laid down their lives for the world at this point, and then he just bursts out, and you're like, oh, fuck, like,
Yeah.
who's going to keep going? So it's
Yeah.
a really good early scene to set up the stakes of how dangerous this character is.
Yeah, it essentially serves as a tool for why they bring Superman back.
Yes, absolutely.
Because there's only Superman who physically can go up against him and stand a chance, realistically.
Yeah.
So it in order to necessitate bringing back a dead man and doing everything they have to do in order to make that happen, you have to put your villain on a pedestal to make him seem like, what other choice do we have here? We have to try at least.
It's the wrestling rules. You and I have been wrestling fans. We know the wrestling rules. Like, you build your character up. Like the Undertaker's undefeat streak at like WrestleMania. Like, that's a major thing. Like, you want your character to come out and clean house, or when that music hits, you want to be like, oh, they come! Like, shit's about to hit the fan. Like, that's how, and it does. It works well for you to be like, oh, an army of Amazons couldn't take this dude. Like, I'm not sure that they're enough, kind of thing. So yeah, it works really well in that sense. It's a good sense of setup.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I should say though, there isn't a great. It's a weird kind of sort of first 2 hours because the pacing of this whole thing is a bit odd. There is the whole thing of meeting Jason Momoa's Aquaman, meeting the Flash, who joins very quickly, and then the whole cyborg thing. So it's like bringing the team together. But yeah, it's kind of, this is where my problem lies with this film.
Yeah,
the action is phenomenal, I think, in many places. I think the problem is when it tries to get somber and serious and that sort of thing, like I think it wallows in it too much, and so it's kind of sort of, as you said, the first 2 hours are 2 hours, if you know what I mean. Like, I'm like, oh, this has been 2 hours, and I'm not 100% sure, like, it's been a good 2 hours. Like, and then I just feel the time. Those first 2 hours, I really feel how long they are.
Yeah. The second half is definitely moving at. There's more happening. It moves at a quicker pace. Obviously, it's more action, a lot more action packed, which helps to move things forward a bit. But yeah, as much as I really do enjoy this film and always have, there's too much in that first 2 hours. It takes too long to get from A to B to C to D.
Yeah.
Again, it's what we were saying before about how he's just put everything into everything he's got in the film and more because he can. But yeah, it's too long. That said, when watching it, you think, in terms of watching it and then watching the theatrical cut, you think, why didn't you use that? Why didn't you use that? There's characters in this that aren't even mentioned in theatrical, let alone seen. Several big characters, Darkseid, Martian Manhunter, Iris West, Joker, Ryan Choi, of course, who becomes the Atom. And I think they had plans for him to be the Atom in future installments that obviously never took place. Willem Dafoe's Vulko, again, completely non-existent. Iris West. Some of those obviously not really crucial to it, but there's some moments and things that you just think, why would you cut that out? It's really just the whole process of what they put out really mystifies me in so many ways.
No, I agree. I think this is where a really good editor can be like, look, I can trim this down. Because I do think that this first 2 hours could be like an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh, easy. Yeah, easy.
and there are scenes to lose, but I don't want to lose the characters, because I think we've got to that sort of time of especially at this point, we've got to that point of comic book films where part of the pleasure, part of the joy, is seeing that interconnectivity. So when you do see sort of like Vulko, and you're like, cool, all right, well, was he in Aquaman? Was that he was, wasn't he? He was in the first Aquaman.
Yeah, which came out after Justice League.
Yeah, but still, you're like, oh, cool, and that's the kind of connectivity. Like this has got a connected world base. Like I'm going to understand this, and yeah, like if they were going to do a Flash film, you're going to have Iris West, and it gives you those connections that I think work well. I do think of all of them, I think the Iris West one is the least important, because that's the kind of thing I think I'd like to see more explored in a solo film.
Yeah. It serves no purpose to the plot, because she's never seen again in this film, and it basically just showcases his powers, doesn't it? Really, that's what it's there to do. Show what he can do to an uninformed audience who perhaps aren't that familiar, despite the fact that there'd been a Flash TV show for however many years that damn thing ran for. So, but yeah, that was all it was. It was just basically to show what he can do. But yeah, I know what you mean. The scene is completely superfluous to anything. Yeah.
Which is, so the things like that, you go like, okay, I can trim this down. It's not as important as you think it is. Let's trim it. Maybe not get rid of it, but I can trim this down to a much more sort of like, bump that's information. Let's move on. A bit more pacey. Would have been interesting. And even, like you say, the characters like Amber Heard's Mira, like you kind of need her because she's in the nightmare sequence at the end. You need her to be there, and she's in the Aquaman film and that sort of thing. So you're like, oh yeah, okay, she's one of those connective tissue characters that's going to carry us through the universe. Just don't piss her off; she'll shit in your bed. But
allegedly,
for legal reasons. But I agree. There's characters you go, no, they need to be there, but they don't need to be there for that long. Like,
no,
trim it down. But once it does get to that midpoint, and they sort of they're together, and you get that first sort of mission, and it's going to be, and it's also sort of it's not stereotypical, it's very cliche that of like the first mission's not going to go well, they've got to work better together. But this thing of going to this island and saving people, and this one's weird, and this one I'm going to say this is where I'm going to say something again, probably controversial.
Yeah,
this part of this works better in the Justice League version.
Okay, yeah.
And what that is, I like all the bits of where they go in and they go, right, they're going to have this fight with the what's they called? The demons.
Parademons.
Parademons, thank you. The character that comes out better, not at the end, not the one scene, but the Flash comes out better in the Justice League version. In this one, he kind of like zips around and he's going like, come on, this way, and he kind of like helps people up a flight of stairs, which is the only way to go. That's all he seems to do in this scene. Like, he doesn't really contribute anything. In the Justice League, at one point he sort of stops Batman and he's like, I've never done anything. I'm terrified. What do I do? And Batman just says, save one person. Just save one person. And he says, and then what? He says, you'll know. And it becomes this thing then of like, oh, I can use my super speed to like zip in, get people out, and I can be the whilst Steppenwolf is distracted in the fight, I can get people past the parademons and stuff. And it feels like, oh, it's a stepping stone to it's part of the Flash's character arc, because he's now building his confidence as being a part of the team, and he's worthy of being on on the team, sort of thing. I think the Snyder version lacks that, because he kind of just zips around like an irritating, firebug. It kind of just I don't know.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's like he's one of the most powered members of the team, really, and he's not, other than the bit where he sort of zooms in and pushes Wonder Woman sword back in her hand. That's quite cool.
It is,
because it's the first time you really see him move at the speed of speed of light, I guess it is, or the speed of sound. Yeah, other than that, he's sort of baggage compared to the rest who are just badass getting straight in there. I mean, they do kind of overpower Batman a little bit in that scene.
Absolutely.
In the fact that he's able to take out parademons hand to hand, knock them out one punch and you're down, kind of thing. I know it's Batman, and it's Batman, but it is kind of like, wow, that's
I agree.
And,
I do agree with that.
And he gets thrown around as well at the start. He gets thrown into into like hard, like metal things.
Yeah.
I know he's got the suit and everything, but it ain't the bloody
it's not Iron
mechanized
Man
suit at the end of
It's
BVS. Just the standard Batman's. I mean, it's obviously a Kevlar'd up and all the rest of it, but you would literally be, your ribs would be broken, you'd probably have broken arms and legs, you'd be concussed. But he's just able to just get up and then just start taking them out with roundhouse kicks and punches. I mean, it's cool as shit because it's Batman. I love it. But it's like, would you really be able to do that? You're just it's bonkers, I suppose.
Again, this is one of the odd things that they do it in the Justice League. Is they do it, and he does it twice. One of them, he introduces this concept of him obviously being a man twice, and one of them doesn't work at all, and one of them does. The first one in the Joss Whedon Justice League is after the fight with Superman, which comes later, out in front of the statue of Superman, and Batman's been thrown to the ground, and you just see him lying there. And he starts to get up, and he says, "Yeah, something's bleeding," and it's a typical Whedon-esque joke. Do you know what I mean? You go like, no, that just feels really out of place. Like it doesn't work at all. It falls very, very flat.
Batman would not say that now.
Yeah, exactly. But there's a scene later on in that version where it's him and Diana, and like Batman's trying to take off his Kevlar top, and he's like struggling because of how bruised he is, and it shows his back, and his back's all like bruised up, and you're like, you go, oh shit, yeah, no, that fight has, like Diana's coming in and going like, yeah, I'm ready for the next round, and he's like, yeah, I'm kind of broken from this.
Yeah, pop my shoulder back in, would you, Diana?
Oh, that's it. She actually does.
Yeah.
I like that, with the acknowledgement of him being just a man who keeps putting his life on the line in these battles. Like he's not a metahuman, he's not a superhero. So I like to have that vulnerability. So you're right. This version of Batman it's still cool. Like he is a cool version of Batman, but it's all a bit too much at times.
It is, yeah. I mean, they've got to heighten it a bit because it's, he's standing alongside these superpowered beings, isn't it? So if he's there like the Christian Bale Batman or something like that, it'd be like, you're going to get killed any minute, So they have to heighten up what he can do and everything. But yeah, the way he's able to go hand to hand with these alien monsters, and jumping ahead, but particularly at the end where they storm the base and he's there somersaulting around the outside of it, throwing bombs at them and what have you before he gets on the gun turret and all that. They really do overpower him a lot. But I think it does kind of work in the context of the film. This ain't Nolan's Batman here. This ain't realistic street level Nolan or Pattinson Batman. This is more comic booky, isn't it?
Absolutely, and that's fine, and I'm fine with that. I think it works for that reason. But I like the fact that they fail. They have to retreat, and that Aquaman, Arthur Curry turns up, and there's this shows how sort of like badass Steppenwolf is. Like they've had I don't know what they call it, the crawler or
the night crawler, they call it,
the Batman crawler thing. Cool design. Fires missiles, and Steppenwolf just grabs one out of the air, and kind of looks at it like, oh, all right, and then lets it go into the wall. Before, I like the way you put it, he boom tubes out. He's like, boom tube out. And he's, and they're like, oh, we're under Gotham Harbor. Another point, sorry, that it's obviously we've recognised that Metropolis and Gotham are opposite each other. I like the fact that, like, in that situation, Gotham got to name the harbour. There's like, this is over Metropolis, so that's quite cool. But yeah, like Aquaman comes to save them. They're beaten, and Cyborg has to use his connectivity powers to get the Nightcrawler working to get them out. I like the fact, as you said. I mean, if there was more action in this, and you were thinking ahead, if Warner Brothers had really thought about this, and they were ahead of the time, don't forget, they were ahead of Marvel, you could have had an Endgame on your hands.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. The wasted potential. It's a shame. It's a real shame.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. This whole DCEU could have been something very, very special indeed. They have got it all there. The characters are there. You know what Marvel built with the MCU is mind blowing to me. It's phenomenal. I know it's not quite got the sheen it once had, but I believe it will again. But there was no reason why this had to fail. There was no reason. They had a huge depth of characters, even bigger than Marvel's, I would say. You know, because let's not forget, Marvel started the MCU with no Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, and X-Men, and still made billions upon billions. But no such trouble with DC and Warner Brothers because they own it all. So, you know, and these are household name characters. Everyone knows who Superman and Batman are. Everyone. People who've never picked up a comic book in their lives, from, you know, little 5-year-old kids to 90-year-olds. Everyone knows who they are. So it was all there, and it's just such a shame. It's such a shame. But hopefully this new iteration that's as we speak is about to start with the new Superman. Hopefully they'll get it right this time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Yeah. We'll see. But it's about having confidence in the journey, isn't it? But like again, this is that thing of like if you had the right studio executive there who'd seen this and gone, do you know what? We're going to do a Matrix or that would have been the template at this point, or like as you said, or Lord of the Rings, right? Right, we're going to do that. It hasn't been done for 10 years, right? We're going to release in March and we're going to release in October, something like that, in the same year, and we're going to have a to be continued.
Yeah.
Justice League Part 1, Justice League Part 2, and you could really go to town on this first part. You know, in fact, what I'd probably done is I'd have gone, right, I want 2 more action set pieces in this.
Yeah.
And we, you know, or actually I want 1 more action set piece, and I want us to beef out the ending. But we're going to end on a downer, because they're going to have been beaten, and it ends with them making the decision that they've got to go and dig up Superman. And then I've been like, you know, then you go like to be continued. Oh, how good would that have been?
Oh, it would have been amazing. It would have been amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, this whole Snyder Cut film, watching it is such a bittersweet experience, viewing pleasure, because it's sweet because it's a good watch, it's an enjoyable film, but it's so bitter because it sets up so much that will never happen. You know, you know, it teases so much of what was planned with the future installments and the apocalyptic future, and Superman to come into the anti-life equation, and then the time travel to go back and undo it all, and then what would have been, you know, some form of epic final battle, and you know the pretend. So for that, and when you read the treatment for parts 2 and 3 that are never going to happen, it's such a shame. It's like the ultimate tease, isn't it? Things you're not going to get. So you know, shame on Warner Brothers for they had it and they
blew it.
They cocked it up basically. You know, whether you like the direction they initially went down before they went, oh no, because they initially gave Snyder the keys to the kingdom. Man of Steel came out, did well, greenlit BVS, but then wanted Snyder and his wife, Deborah Snyder, who's like his producing partner, to creatively oversee the whole universe. If you look at the next 4 or 5 or 6 films that come out after BVS, they're executive producers of all of them.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, his fingerprints are all over. Let's not forget, he casts Wonder Woman, he cast Flash, he cast Aquaman, who went off to do their own films. So his fingerprints were all over it. And BVS comes out, and you know, we discussed it last time. The people are not mad keen on it, but what they do is they start principal photography on Justice League 2 weeks after BVS comes out. So by then it's too late to sit down and go, right, let's be sensible, let's rethink it, let's decide what we're going to do and stick with it, and proceed with Snyder, but we'll temper certain things. It was too late. That it's trying to shut the stable door after the horse has bolted.
Yeah.
They panicked big time and went, oh, we can't go down. People don't want this dark vision. We need to lighten it up, and then it just became what it became. So too many cooks spoil the broth, I think.
I think the thing is, I agree. I absolutely agree. Like, that's a really good way of putting it. Too many cooks came in and were just sort of like, I want this and we should do that. And it becomes this mess of a nothing, this meh kind of event when it should have been this massive, massive thing. I also think it comes down to the marketing of sort of what this is. I mean, again, they were looking to sort of match, but also like counter Marvel, and Marvel had that sort of, they perfected that kind of humorous action adventure movie.
They do it well. They do it very well.
Absolutely. And they can let that level of comedy can go up and down, dependent. Like, you can have an Ant-Man, or a Thor Ragnarok, or you can have a Captain America Winter Soldier. You can move it around. But like, what this is going, no, we're going for an epic. Like, this isn't. We're not going just for a. And they were trying to say this, like, this is a saga. This is a godlike saga. Like, stick with it, kind of thing. But I think you're right. I think they panicked and stuff. And even when you see this, I can see like what was like. Snyder's a little bit too full of his own vision. And watching it this time. Again, like, I've said, like, I like his visuals. I love the way he does his action. But I can see, having seen this, I can see echoes or the foreshadowing that would become Rebel Moon.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Where you look at certain things and you're going, okay, okay, I can see, I can see what you're doing, but like, you need to. My comparison for this is Batman. I think I said before, is Batman Returns, where Tim Burton made Batman and the studio went, it made all the money in the world. We had Batmania. Go make me another Batman film. And Burton went off and made like a gothic wet dream of a Batman film.
Yeah.
And Warner Brothers were like, what the fuck is this? We can't sell this to kids. Like,
exactly. Yeah.
The film opens with a deformed child being thrown into a frozen river. And I think I kind of feel that this is the same, where they've gone really well. Snyder's the vision, and there's no one there to temper him to say, bring it back in. Because didn't they bring in a comic book writer who? And I'm thinking, I can't.
Well, Jeff Johns.
Jeff Johns
was not as a writer, but also like as a producer as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff after this is very, very hands-on on the whole universe, Jeff Johns.
Yeah.
And I think, I'll say it, I think Jeff Johns is one of the best comic book writers of modern times. I absolutely love reading Jeff Johns comics. I think they're fantastic. And I'll never change my opinion. But then when you hear about, again, it's all alleged and what have you. It does appear to be a lot of substance to it.
Yes.
Again, his conduct allied to Whedon's conduct, which again,
his opinion of it, his opinion of himself about
Yeah, I think Whedon was very high on himself coming off the 2 Avengers films that he directed that both cleared $1 billion. I think he saw himself coming in here as DC savior.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was anything but. And the way he treated people was abhorrent. And when you hear what the stars of the Buffy series have to say about him, it adds a lot of credence to what his alleged behavior was like. And so at Justice League, it would appear that what people are saying is true about him, because I've never heard him, if I was Joss Whedon and people were saying things like that about me, they'd be served with court papers, because I'm going to take them to court for slander and libel. There's none of that. I even remember, our circling back to your mate Ray Fisher there, I remember, when, like we were saying, he seemed to be tweeting every other day about it. And I remember he even one put said, I think he openly said to John, it was either Whedon or Johns, if I'm lying, then sue me.
Yeah, and he did, absolutely.
And they didn't. And they didn't. And sometimes silence speaks more than, actually defending yourself. So I do think what they're alleged to have been like is probably true.
Yeah.
And it was just a very snake bit production, I think. I just wish things had been very different, and then to see what would have come after this as well.
Yeah.
It was just a massive wasted opportunity. It could have been the biggest thing, and it was just a massive cock up, massive cock up that cost Warner Brothers a huge amount of money and a massive blow to their reputation as well.
Yeah. It is. I think It's just. Watch this time. Everything you've just said is exactly how I thought. I was like, oh, this feels like a massive what if. What could have been. Like, I'm not saying I'm the biggest fan, but like there is that potential. You go, like, oh, I wonder what this could have been, and where would it have led, and what would have been the end result. But yeah. But anyway, let's jump into the second half, because there's a couple of things in the second half that are kind of worth picking up and noting.
Yeah.
So following the defeat, they do make the choice. They have the discussion, and it is agreed that they are to bring back Superman. And there is one there's an oddity to this where they're sort of like, they kind of acknowledge that because he's been dead for, I don't know how, it's meant to be at least a couple of months.
So it's unclear, isn't it? But some time has passed, shall we say?
Yeah. But there's a weird comment when they're kind of like, they sort of acknowledge that even they don't really know what state his body will be in.
Yeah.
And like, it doesn't really decay in the same way and all this other stuff. So it's a little weird that they're going to go dig him up and sort of crack on with it. And I kind of like that they acknowledge that as well, that like you've got Cyborg and the Flash digging him up feels I don't know, it feels odd, but understandable. So yeah, you have all this kind of, again, it's where it sort of, like I say, it picks up pace, because it's now going to be, you have the Aquaman, you've had the the Atlantis, that's what I'm looking for, attack. He's got the two boxes, and they find out obviously that Cyborg is the third, or has the third. So this getting Superman, getting the bits and pieces together for Superman. And actually, again, this is interesting. The I don't know what you call it, rebirthing, realiving, and Superman. Yeah. There's probably resurrecting is probably a better word.
Yeah, reanimating.
Reanimating, about Superman is different again in between the two. In the Justice League, it is, although there is some pushback, but from Aquaman in particular, the scene of like the Flash going to the far end and then doing the run and building up the power and stuff, they do say go. They absolutely say go, and it's all positive. It's all go, all do. We're bringing back Superman. I think it's interesting in this. It's kind of an accident in Snyder's Justice League where they're all set up to do it, and someone, I think, is it Cyborg that says no because he's had this vision of, he
sees what's to come, doesn't he?
Yeah. And
if they go down this path,
yeah. And then Barry Allen.
God knows how, though. God knows how.
It's another one of these sort of vision things, isn't it? They're like, he likes to insert visions, but there's no context to how they're happening or why.
No. Just being plugged into the Kryptonian ship doesn't give you the power of clairvoyance.
No.
So how does just by aligning himself with the disk drive, does he suddenly go, oh God, I can see Wonder Woman's funeral pyre, and I can see, the Hall of Justice in ruins with Batman's evil Superman holding Batman's cowl. How does that work? I don't know. But he looks cool.
He does. He looks cool. But like you said, this is the thing. This is the kind of some of the problems of the Snyderverse, where the Snyder cuts, when there are like, you're going, this is the Flash running in during BVS, and then Batman waking up a second time, and you're going like, was that a vision? Was it a dream? What does it mean? I'm confused. How did Batman see this vision of the future to do with the nightmarescape? Like it doesn't matter. Just accept it. It does. But I like the fact that there is reluctance. That they're kind of like, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. It's the wrong thing to do. Even Aquaman says at one point, like, let him rest. There's a kind of acknowledgement of everything he's done. But that's not the case. They are going to bring him back, and the Flash ignites him using the Speed Force and the Mother Box. And he zips out like a rocket.
At the exact time Lois happens to be
picking up a coffee,
out there looking at the memorial statue, Whereas that's different in the Justice. Bruce actively brings her there, doesn't he? He says she's the big gun because he brings her there with Alfred, doesn't he?
Alfred brings her,
in case they need something to anchor Superman back to who he is, or who he was, I should say. But in this case, she's just there by happenstance.
Which again, one of the things where the Justice League, I actually think I prefer that version, because that's Batman thinking ahead. They refer to her as the big guns. They don't tell you what it is, but they're just saying, have the big gun ready.
You presume it's like a kryptonite weapon, don't you?
That's it. You're supposed to exactly. You're supposed to believe that, and then they bring out Lois, and that sort of. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I like that. That's Batman thinking ahead. This one does feel a little bit like, coincidentally, she sort of staggers across the park, and she's like, oh, just happened to be there at the time.
And everyone refers to him as Clark in front of all those policemen who are there.
Yeah.
Bruce, Batman refers to him as Clark. Lois refers to him as Clark.
And apart from Wonder Woman, Diana calls him Kal-El. She's the only one to refer to him as, but she's never told him.
How does she know? She know?
Don't know.
Maybe she had a conversation with Lois Lane at some point.
Maybe
after the funeral, because she was at his funeral, wasn't she?
I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure how that topic comes up, but that's fine. She's learned that his name's Kal-El, and she now refers to him as that. In the now infamous meme that is Kal-El, no.
Oh dear. God bless Gal Gadot. Not the, like you said, good as Wonder Woman. I do think she was. Wonder Woman, but just not a particularly strong actress.
No. But this does give the guys that they have a chance. There's the Superman does there. He's in front of essentially he X-rays them all. It's going to have that famous scene where they all sort of run at him and try and do things. The Flash tries to sort of like run around him at sort of super speed. And I think this is a genius moment of an idea. Is everything you're going into that you've been shown what the super speed looks like, which I think this is where that early scene sort of pays off. You've seen how fast Barry is moving. So you know how fast he's moving now, and then Superman can see him and sort of like follows him with his eyes.
That side eye is absolutely brilliant.
It is. Absolutely. It's a real like what the fuck moment, because you are like, oh no. Like this.
Yeah, because at that point, no, Barry Allen, the Flash, would never have seen it. No one would ever have been as fast as him to see him. So it's like, what am I going to do here? I have no chance.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because this is where, Barry's face of real confusion of like you say, I don't know. I don't know what to do here.
It's great though. It showcases just how formidable he is.
Yes,
because he's been supercharged as well, hasn't he? By jump starting him with the Mother Box. I guess it's dialed everything up to 11, I suppose.
Yeah.
So which is shown at the end as well when he turns up to help them. How powerful he is. But yeah, the fact that he's able to take on all 5 of them with barely a hair out of place or a bead of sweat broken, just shows how powerful he is. I mean, I do prefer the Snyder version. It's a longer scene as well with more in it, and it doesn't have the awful exchange where he grabs Batman by the neck and says in an English accent as well.
Yeah,
which I suppose I suppose would work because at that point he hasn't remembered who he is, so he doesn't have his American accent that he adopted by being brought up as an American.
Yeah,
So I
but
suppose because he's a blank slate, maybe he would speak with an English accent. Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I think you're giving it too much because I think that was just I'm doing this
Yeah.
scene and we're getting home. That yeah, I hate that
Yeah.
scene. I agree. I absolutely hate that scene.
But yeah, the "Do You Bleed?" I know it's supposed to be
Yeah.
a callback to the previous film and all that. But it's just terrible. And again, because it's new footage, it showcases the old Mission Impossible mustache being digitally removed, which is just it's the worst. How they couldn't. I know he couldn't shave it off because obviously this was
Still
all the
filming.
all the reshoots, but obviously he'd committed for Mission Impossible 6.
Yeah.
But I don't know how they couldn't have come to some kind of arrangement. I was reading about it today, and they were saying like Paramount, obviously who made Mission Impossible films, and Christopher McQuarrie were like, if you're going to shave it off, you have to pay us X millions of dollars because we're going to have to digitally add it back on for our film. But in this day and age, why he couldn't have shaved it off and just worn a fake mustache in Mission Impossible? With the things they can do with prosthetics and fake hair and fake beards and things, surely they could have put together a really good quality fake mustache.
I am sure, that felt a bit like inter-studio dick swinging, didn't it? Of like, our franchise is better or is more important than you. We've got a Tom Cruise franchise, don't you know? That I think it definitely feels a bit of that going on. Yeah. I think it should have gone the other way. I would have sort of incorporated it. I'd have been like, let him have the mustache, and let's just sort of like, just not mention it, and just have it as like, is that what happens when Kryptonians die? They just go like, yeah, they all just grow a mustache. Like,
yeah, they could have said like you were saying, because his body doesn't decay and decompose like a human being, he's kind of kept intact. He just is dead.
Yeah,
maybe his cells would continue to grow facial hair and things.
That's what I'd have done.
Yeah, because I suppose in the the comic book version of the
comes out with a mullet.
He has a mullet, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So I guess that would fly. They should have done that actually, and had Cavill wearing a mullet wig or something like that.
Gone for the mullet, gone for the hair extensions. That would have been ace. That would have been awesome.
Yeah. A mullet and a beard, full on Barry Gibb kind of.
Yeah,
look.
gone for the whole. Yeah. That would have been better.
It would than the awful look of having your mustache CGI removed and your top lip looking like
someone's punched you in the face. Like it's moving separately to the whole of your face. It's so weird.
Every time he's on screen and it's new footage, that top lip completely takes you out of the film, doesn't it?
It's one of those things where you'll go back and you'll be like, here's Gollum from 2002.
Yeah.
Here's Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean. It's 2007. And then you go, this is Henry Cavill's top lip in 2016. And you're like, what happened to CGI effects in that 10-year period? Like, it's insane how bad it is. It's ridiculous. It's massively off-putting.
Yes.
I didn't say cut up the stash, made him look like a 1970s copper, like he's about to join the bill. That'd have been hilarious. Mullet and a mustache. It'd been ace, actually.
Yeah.
So,
restore the mullet cut. Yeah.
Yes, fantastic. But he comes back and then he zips off and he has this whole sort of scene of going back to the Kent farm and with Lois and then his mum turns up and he has to re-find himself and all that other stuff. So all that stuff. Again, it's good. It's fine. I like this sort of sense that he has to rediscover of that what's the phrase? Touch the grass. Sort of reestablish himself.
Yeah.
There's a weird difference to note, actually. I wanted to throw this one in. Yeah. So when he goes back to the Kent farm and he's in the field and he's got his hand and he's sort of doing the gladiator bit where he's running his hand through the corn and stuff. In this, it's just corn, right? In Snyder's Justice League, it's just corn. In the Justice League, for some reason, they've added a butterfly.
As you do.
As you do. Like, he puts his hand through the thing and a butterfly sort of comes off the corn and goes past him. And you're like, the time you spent putting that butterfly in could have gone towards the top lip. Just saying. But like, but it's an odd choice where you do go like, that adds nothing. Like, it adds, only because I've watched them so quickly in quick succession, I was able to sort of go, oh, that's an oddity.
Again, just another mind-baffling choice from Warner Brothers in this production. Yeah.
What this film needs, butterfly. That's what the lighten the mood, and you go, oh, okay, well, choice is made.
Yeah. Very strange. Very strange.
But in the meantime, all this, I think we will talk about the differences between the endings of this. So, because it is worth noting, because we are sort of hurtling towards sort of the final. I want to sort of get into the ending. In the Justice League version, there's been this thing of they clearly couldn't say it's Chernobyl because for whatever reason, but there's been it's a former Russian town that has had a nuclear disaster and is now being repopulated, and so Steppenwolf is inserting the mother boxes into this wall so he can talk to Darkseid and dude with a hood.
Desard,
yeah, thank you. And it's in this reactor, in this former nuclear reactor.
Yeah,
and that's his kind of thing. And he puts this big dome over it, and there's all this other stuff. And there's this family, this one solitary family that the Justice League film focuses on.
Why are they there?
What? No reason. Don't know. They just live. They now live in this sort of hovel-esque hut building, but it leads to one of the weirdest things in the ending in that version, because they all go in and they sort of go in, and Superman's been becomes reintroduced a little quicker in the Justice League version. But when they go to save people, the Flash saves the family that we've been following in their truck, pushes them out to safety, and then he looks round and Superman's carrying a building full of people.
Yeah, like an apartment building, a flat build, block of flats.
Block of flats. And you sort of go, didn't know they were there. They were never mentioned at any point. Like, I just thought it was just one family. Like, it's so, again, decisions that were made are so weird.
It is. The whole thing with the family, because they were in it quite a bit throughout the course of that film, aren't they? I just don't understand why they're there and who thought it was a good idea. Again, who thought it was a good idea to put them in? They bring nothing to the story. They have no arc of themselves other than cowering in their house because there's alien monsters all around the place. Yeah. And they're just there, and they're there to be kind of rescued at the end. It's just, I don't know what the mandate was as to why they were in there.
It's like cheap stakes, isn't it? Oh, we've got to save this family. We've got to make them likable or unique enough to be recognised, so that they become something that's got to be saved at the end. But as you say, they serve no purpose because we know that the world is at risk. Like, they don't need this family because we know that we've seen in the flashbacks and stuff and the flash forwards, like, if Steppenwolf wins, what's going to happen? We don't need this family. It's a very odd choice that kind of distracts. But
yeah, they're just living in a house like the Bucket family in Willy Wonka. Literally in the middle of nowhere. So like, what's their existence? Like, there's no town there. Why do they live there? And what is their life?
This is something that Julie and I have a bit as one of our checklist things. It's like, what is the logistics of what is going on? Like, this is it. How do they live? What job do they do? How do they get water or food? Like, none of it makes any sense. It's irritating beyond belief. Yeah. But that does lead to the Snyder version of the ending does make more sense. It's the same place, and you just accept that the stakes are end of the world. So I'm fine with that. That's perfectly acceptable. And so they go. The battle is being taken to this thing, and Batman decides to sort of act as the distraction, driving the Batmobile in to take on the parademons and stuff.
Yeah. Essentially a suicide mission as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
He at that point he thinks he's like, whatever happens, complete the mission. I'll distract them for as long as possible.
Yeah.
He's kind of willing to die there, isn't he?
Yeah, it's his sacrifice. Like he feels guilty for the death of Superman, and this is like his, as he sees it, his redemption. His sort of sacrifice is his redemption. But it's cool. Again, like, you know, the sort of flying the ship and then the Batmobile coming out, you know. And it seems like this one, I'm like, yeah, of course the Batmobile should have guns. Like, if you're fighting like alien parademons, like, kind of makes sense. I'm all, you know, I'm fine with it. Not a problem.
These aren't goons at the dock in BVS.
Yeah.
There's no qualms about just mowing people down with gunfire in this. These are faceless alien monsters. We don't care if they get get killed, which they do. So that's fine. We're good with that, you know.
Yeah, they're CGI monstrosities. I'm not so worried about sort of these being killed off. But I do like the fact that they make the decision to work as a team and come after him, and you know, and that sort of thing. And it sort of, again, sort of highlights the personalities. Again, I think Momoa just shines throughout a lot of this. Like,
they do, considering none of it takes place in an aquatic setting.
Yeah,
they do showcase that he's still incredibly strong and incredibly formidable, even outside of water. You know, there's the whole scene that takes place in the air where he's not flying. Obviously, it's like a free fall thing, but he's like almost like jumping from one baddie to another in the air, and then
yeah,
it's very cool.
It is very cool. He surfs a parademon. It's ace. I've got to say that Momoa has been, because he's so different to the others. You know, I think he has this sort of contentious relationship with Barry that, like, I like his presence. Like, you know, when he first turns up after saving them in the bay in Gotham, and it's sort of like, you know, straight after that, and you see them, and Batman's talking to Commissioner Gordon, J.K. Simmons, Commissioner Gordon, and he comes out and he's just sort of like dresses like a bat. I dig it, and you're just sort of like, you know, he's able to be funny and kind of like, you know, has that surfer dude kind of presence which works.
I think the humor that comes from him is a lot funnier than the humor you're supposed to find in Barry Allen's characterization performance. He's quite irritating.
Yes.
And really not massively like Barry Allen of the comics either. He doesn't have that personality. And what the kind of thing he does is really, like, you know, I'm not blaming Ezra Miller as such. He's working with the material he's been given to work with, but his performance is really annoying.
Yes.
Whereas Momoa's humor, you can laugh at it, and you know, to my taste anyway.
No, I agree.
I find his performance a lot more, his comedic moments anyway.
Yeah.
Infinitely more funny than
Miller's.
He's supposed to be the comic of the group.
Yeah, he's got like a coolness to his humor, hasn't he, with Momoa, and he's just kind of chill with it, and I think it works.
Yeah.
And I think that just seems like Momoa just doesn't take himself too seriously. Even as Aquaman or in real life, he's kind of like, he just seems quite chill about a lot of this stuff.
Kind of plays himself in everything, actually.
Pretty much, yeah.
In Fast 9, he was the campest villain you've ever seen.
Oh, he's amazing in that.
He's so camp, but having a ball, clearly.
Yeah.
And in Minecraft film, he sends himself up something rotten. He is one of those actors who's kind of like Schwarzenegger was back in the day, where they kind of play the exact same part in every single film. But it works for him, you know, he gets away with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think of the changes they've made to the characters between Aquaman and the Flash, this worked to such an extent that it kind of materialized in the comics. At least for a time. I don't know how Aquaman is at the moment, but the Momoaized, if I call it that, version of Aquaman appeared in the comics for a bit. There was never an Ezra Miller-esque version of the Flash in the comics. Like, it never took off. It never sort of landed. And I'm glad, because you're right, he's irritating. And if you ever watch The Flash, where there's two of him, twice as irritating.
The younger version of the two, who just spends the entire movie doing a really annoying laugh all the
Yeah,
way through it. Oh, Jesus Christ!
yeah,
Yeah. When the only good thing, the best thing in that film is the two Batmen,
yeah,
but the film is The Flash. That kind
yeah.
of tells you all you need to know.
It's funny. It's just come on Prime, and I'm just like, oh,
Mm.
I can watch the 4 scenes I really like in that film now, and avoid everything else. Um.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to so yeah. So this conclusion though ends with this sort of big battle, and it is like the team take on the parademons, and then they take on um, Steppenwolf in this like full-on battle. And again, like I will give Zack Snyder his due where it's where it should be, and this scene works really well. I think they do a great job. I mean, the idea is that the mother boxes have got to be kept apart. They've got to be kept separate, and that's Cyborg's job. And then they've got to have this blast of energy from the Flash, who's sort of like zipping around to build up the sort of the speed force so that he can do this thing.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it works. It works well. The fighting is good. I think the setup is good. Um,
The
and
introduction of Superman is very good as well, I think. 10 times better than the Justice League version, where he appears and comes out with that awful line about, I'm a big fan of justice, and I can't remember what he says now. Do you know what I mean? When he in this obviously in the Snyder Cut, he just appears and catches the axe on his shoulder, doesn't he? And
yeah,
just freezes it with his breath and blows and just shatters it, and it's cool as fuck. But in the other one, he kind of just appears, doesn't he? He says, I'm a big believer in
truth.
faith, or
Truth.
and I'm a big fan of justice as well, or something.
And then punches him in the face. Yeah.
It's cringe.
It is. It's not good. No, in this one, I like the fact that, and also in that it doesn't kind of, because it's compressed. It doesn't cover this fact that like there's a reluctance in Clark to get involved. So in the Justice League, he just goes off and
Having
does
just
it.
come back from the dead, yeah.
Yeah, like in the Justice League, like he just goes off and does it. Jumps in his suit and off he goes. In the Snyder version, like there's a reluctance. Like there's a real kind of like, should I? Like, is this my fight? Like, is this the only reason I've been brought back? And what happens if I do die and leaving Lois and all this other stuff again? So again, I like that there's some, it's not a straight up, I'm going to go straight back into battle. It's kind of, there is a bit of a reluctance there.
Yeah, no, it works really well, that as well, and I think they made the better choice putting him in the black suit as well. I think that works well. Again, it's like that comic faithful thing of him being resurrected and wearing the black suit, and it makes some sense as well because he would choose that because it's the black absorbs more of the sun, doesn't it? So there's that whole scene again that's not in the theatrical where after he's suited up he goes and basks in outer space and charges himself up even more, doesn't he? Which makes sense as to how he can literally just catch that axe.
Yeah,
it cuts through anything on his shoulder like it's nothing, and then literally beats up Steppenwolf like he's a little boy.
I have to say that needs to be made clearer because if you do watch the death or read the death and the resurrection of Superman, which I do recommend, by the way, I think it's a good comic series and good, when he does come back in the black suit, no cape, mullet. This was the early 90s. Everything had to be extreme and everything.
Yeah.
But it's explained that it's a solar suit, isn't it? Like that. The reason it's not his normal suit, it's a solar suit that actually he's not at full power, and this suit is actually doing some of the work of what his body should be doing, and which is why he's been able to get to that power level. So, yeah, that it explains it in the comic. It's not mentioned here. I get it. That I think that's what they're going for. So I'm fine with it for the final battle. I don't like that he's still wearing it in the end montage.
Yeah, when he does the shirt rip when he's come back to life as Clark Kent, which I'd love to know how they explain where Clark's been all this time in the canon, but we'll never know. But yeah, I know what you mean. It should have been just for
the battle,
just for this, and then he goes back to the old red and blue. Yeah. We see the red and blue when it's in the ship. It's in the ship, isn't it? When he's the options are being presented, but he wears the black.
Yeah, walks down. Oh, not that one. Oh, Yeah, black slimming. That looks
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah, that's what I want. I wanted a costume changing montage to 80s music for 5 minutes. That's
Yeah.
that's
I know
what
what
the
you
finale
mean.
needed. But yeah, no,
Yeah,
I like the suit.
like the shopping scene in Pretty Woman kind
Yeah,
of thing. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I think it looks cool for the end. I think
Mm.
it works for the end of the film. It works for the tone of the film. So I'm fine with him wearing the black suit for the battle, and it is cool when he sort of zips in because it's Cyborg that's about to get hit. I can't remember. Is it? I
Yeah,
forget.
Cyborg's there with his back to Steppenwolf because he's trying to sort the
Separate
boxes
the
out, isn't he?
cubes. Yeah,
And he's
yeah,
literally just about to get cleaved in half,
yeah.
but it Superman appears out of nowhere, doesn't he? Yeah, it's a very cool
It
entrance.
is. Yeah, as you say, sort of freezes it with his ice breath and then smashes it, and then doesn't really say much. Just starts pummeling on him. Like,
Yeah, it's quite cruel actually, isn't he? Because he lasers half his head off. Well, one of those horns, doesn't
yeah,
he?
yeah,
With his heat vision, and then just literally just spends the next few minutes just punching him in the face while he's down, like, and
yeah.
he's just laying into him. It's I guess maybe they were trying to hint at his possible
Darker side.
darker side. You know, there's that look him and Darkseid give each other through the boom tube
Yeah,
across the galaxy that obviously hints at what's to come there. Again, we'll never see it. So maybe that was something they were trying to go for. But it's very cool. I mean,
it works.
it's not.
Yeah,
A lot of people are like, well, it's like it renders the other 5 members of the Justice League impotent because they couldn't get the job done, and then he comes along and almost single-handedly destroys Steppenwolf without breaking stride. But I don't think that's the case
well, he
at all.
doesn't.
Because,
Let's be clear there, because they do fail at first.
Yeah.
And because even with Superman, they fail initially. The boxes combine, and it's Barry pushing himself because it all gets obliterated, and then he figures out he can. It basically is the ending of Superman the movie. Weirdly enough.
yeah. Run back through time.
Yeah, but he's been injured, and that's he wasn't able to give. He was shot in the thigh, and so that's why he wasn't able to sort of get to Cyborg to give him the jolt of speed force he needed.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I'm in two minds about this ending. There is this sort of thing of like it's cool that they give Barry something important to do because he's been building up to his confidence, all this other stuff. But it also comes out of nowhere that he's like, I can now run backwards through time, and I can, people will rematerialize, and I'm like, across the universe, like, how does this work? What are the logistics? Like, this makes no sense. I want to know what is going on.
Yeah, he says when he's about to do it in the Snyder Cut list, he says something like, "You've got to break the rule, Barry. You've got to break the rule." But what is the rule? What is the rule? It's not been mentioned at any point up till then. Had he done this before?
Yeah,
and it was a self-imposed rule that I'm not going to travel back through time and save my mother from dying, which obviously he does eventually in his own film. What is the rule that where's this come from? Does he do this running back through time through the Speed Force purely by just like not by accident, but you know what I mean? Just purely on the spur of the moment, based on the situation, i.e., the world's literally just ended, or did he already know he could do that? You know what I mean? It
comes out of nowhere.
Comes out of nowhere. It's not. There's been no tease of it. No like sense of it being earned very much.
No, but I think this comes back to the thing you were saying about the kitchen sink. Like, this is everything. This scene with Barry, like, having to save the day, is not needed at all. You could have given him something better to do and been like, no, you want the Flash doing, taking out the parademons, or like using his speed to punch Steppenwolf like 1,000 times before, in a second, or that kind of thing. You need him doing something else rather than this.
Yeah. Like you said, it's a very cool sequence, and the thing where it shows the skeletons of all the Justice League who've literally just been
eradicate. Yeah,
even Superman just obliterated,
Yeah.
eradicated from, and the blood and the skeleton and the flesh and everything rematerializing backwards. That's very cool. That looks really cool, especially the close in on Cyborg's face as it all comes back together. Very, very cool visual, fantastic. But yeah, it's just so out of nothing.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Where has this come from? But again, it's cool as fuck.
It is. Yeah, oh no, it is. And I can imagine that being the excuse. Like I can imagine Snyder going like, yeah, but it's dead cool and it's my cut and I'll do what I want. And you go, oh, fair enough.
Oh, yeah.
So it is there. It's fine. It looks cool, but it doesn't really. If anything, it just prolongs the ending. I do appreciate this bit that but Wonder Woman cuts off Steppenwolf's head, and that's what goes back, and it's kind of the destruction of the mother boxes being the end result of this. There is this other question of there's then that thing of Darkseid standing there, and he looks cool. I've always thought Darkseid is a really cool design. Like in the comics, I just think he's a very straightforward, very simple, but very imposing design. And so for him to be stood there and sort of says, we'll do it the old-fashioned way, and get the armada ready, is cool.
Yeah,
the thing is, I can see where there's a bit of a Thanos about this.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Again, the original production predates Avengers Endgame, though, doesn't it?
It does, absolutely, yeah.
And Infinity War, but then one could say Marvel already had Thanos in play from the first Avengers film, and they teased him through various end credit scenes and whatnot before we get to the big bonanza of Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah,
but yeah, I know what you mean. People who are not maybe comic fans would probably look at it and go, "That's like a pound shop Thanos or something like that," which he's anything but, by the way.
No.
Darkseid is a far more formidable character than Thanos ever was, let me tell you.
And steeped in much more lore. That's the thing. That's one of the things I prefer about sort of Darkseid to Thanos. Is like Darkseid isn't just big mean space dude. You've got no, he lives in Apocalypse. It's got this whole thing to go with it. He's got the Furies, which leads just to Big Barda, and Granny Goodness, who's clearly who
we see CGI.
You see that, yeah,
looking like Judi Dench.
That would have been an amazing casting, wouldn't it? Like Judi Dench playing Granny Goodness. I love the fact that Darkseid has much bigger lore in the comics than Thanos does. Like Thanos is kind of that's this weird thing of death, but Darkseid is and at least the new gods, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the Fourth World. I mean, they were supposedly making a new gods film for the longest time before it ended up dead in the water. And I hope we get some iteration of Darkseid. Because you think if this universe that Gunn's building is going to lead to the eventual inevitable payoff of some form of Justice League extravaganza, then what is the unsurmountable force that they have to team up to fight? Then it's Darkseid, I guess. So I do hope we get to see him again and that the world he lives in somehow. I hope we do.
Yeah. No, I agree. That would be cool. But no, it's a good payoff. I think the ending, it kind of works. It's fun. It's a good fight scene. It has that kind of once they do win, the mother boxes have been destroyed and everything, and they have that team moment of stood on that kind of cliff, all looking off and that sort of thing. So
yeah,
that's quite satisfactory. And it leads into the finale of all the different where they're going to go they're going to go off and start to. This has been a learning journey for them. Barry's now got a job in a crime lab. Arthur Aquaman is going to go back off to Atlantis, and he's going to face his destiny and all those kinds of bits. I like the fact that it's got these. Oh, and you're going to have, Cyborg's going to join the team. He's going to start looking for, he's starting to do all that kind of stuff. I think it's cool. I like the fact that it's, the bit in Wayne Manor is going to be the first halls of justice, and they're like, big table in there
that's
with
interesting.
with sort of 6 chairs around it, and they say and room for many more, and you go like, all right, cool.
Yeah, that's cool. And they also allude to the fact that Lois is pregnant as well.
Yeah,
it's hardly touched upon, but she clearly must be, because there's a bit when she's still moping around and in mourning when she opens a desk drawer and there's pregnancy tests in there when she gets out her press pass. But at the end, when they're going back to the Kent farm, because Bruce has bought it he's bought the bank, hasn't he? That took it off. Bought the bank, that took it off them. And as Lois and Martha are climbing up steps, one of them is holding like a baby.
I saw
crib.
that. Yeah.
And then as they're walking back in, Clark and Bruce goes, "Congratulations, by the way." But it's done in such a throwaway.
Oh, I always assumed that was because of the engagement ring.
You can interpret it like that.
Yeah.
But when you read about what they'd planned for Justice League 2 and 3, Lois was going to have
a baby.
A baby, yes, she was going to be pregnant.
Okay.
But they really underplay it.
Yeah.
Even though she is pregnant, it's massively underplayed. I guess because they thought, well, we're never going to pay it off, so why draw too much attention to it?
No, that makes sense.
But it's
I was interested. Yeah. I did see the thing they're carrying and stuff, and so that's interesting to know. The thing about the bank, and I know this is one of those petty things, and just how this goes to show more about me than it does anything else. When I'm like, when they're sort of like, the bank foreclosed on the house, and therefore the bank owns that house, right? And so this is how out of touch Bruce is. So Bruce's solution to the problem is to buy the bank. When he could have just said to the bank, "I'll buy the house."
Exactly.
And then,
why?
And then Clark can go, "How did it happen?" He'd be like, I bought it. I'm rich. What's my superpower? Here's the keys. Like, it's yours, a gift. Like, I don't know. It just feels like this thing of buying the bank seems so massively complex in the sort of, again, how the hell did the logistics of that work? If you've ever read anything in the news about financial mergers or companies being overtaken, it takes months, if not years, for those things to be completed.
Yeah, all the process you have to go through, all the due diligence, all that. Unless he just went, "I'm Bruce Wayne. Here's more than your bank's worth. Give it to me."
Yeah,
maybe. But yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. He should have just gone to them, right? The Kent farm that you now own, it's got a market value of X $1,000. Here's double cash.
Yeah.
Give it to me.
Yeah, exactly.
It's it doesn't. Yeah, but I suppose again, you're not supposed to think too much about these things.
No. It's a joke. It's meant to be a throwaway line, but
it is, isn't it? Yeah.
What you don't realise is that Wayne Enterprises also bought the 4 farms around it, and it also went bankrupt, and they're now doing industrial-sized farming on all those lands. So, swings and roundabouts in the land of in the sort of the corporate America. Like, yes, he's Batman. He's also a capitalist, and full advantage of.
There's now a slaughterhouse at the end of the field.
That's it. Yeah. But the end is good. Again, it's sort of. I think it does open up for the potential for the future, but I think it has a good. Even in the Snyder version, it felt like the ending of Avengers, where it's like we've reached a peak. And everyone's going to disperse, but there's going to be reason to come back. It has like a satisfactory kind of, this story's been told to a degree, but there's more to come. But it works enough.
Yeah. Everyone's in a good place, aren't they? They've saved they've literally saved the world, and they all can now go back to their separate lives. But we're going to build this team, and in the future, we'll reconvene when the time is right.
Yeah.
But then you get all the extra scenes.
And then we get the rest, which is, for some reason, Martian Manhunter turns up at Bruce Wayne's lakeside villa, and it's like, and no one sort of says, "What the fuck are you?"
Yeah, and not only that, where the fuck were you in BVS? Where the
Yeah.
fuck were you in Man of Steel? If you were posing
Yeah.
as General, is it General Swanwick? I think the
Yeah, something
character's
like
called,
that. Yeah,
that he is. Why didn't you join in Man of Steel when Superman was, single-handedly taking them on? When Doomsday, why were you stood in a office at the Pentagon on the phone to the president going, Mr. President, this creature's unkillable, and then wait for Superman to solve it. Why didn't you dive in? Because Martian Manhunter's almost as powerful.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Sidekick,
Yeah, exactly. Shapeshifter.
Shapeshifter.
He can do it all. It doesn't. It bears no logic. I know he makes some line up, doesn't he? He says something about I've got a stake in this world too. This is my home now. It's time I realize now I have to start fighting for it. Something like that. He says.
Yeah.
There's no logic to him being there that whole time and never getting involved. No.
I'm not gonna lie. Kind of irritates me, to be perfectly honest.
Me too. It's cool as shit seeing him.
It looks cool. Yeah, we've got Martian Manhunter there, but it really does piss me off. And then we get the nightmare vision of the future, which was shot, I think, on someone's drive or something or other. And,
yeah, with a really CGI Ezra Miller who doesn't speak, who's clearly wasn't there for that shooting. They just have him there in the background.
Yeah,
but
it's like a cardboard cutout, isn't it? They've just gone sort of like is the Ezra Miller cutout that we'll put in the background.
Yeah, and the shot of Superman at the end is again another repurposed shot. He wasn't there at Cavill, but obviously the other ones were Batman, Joker, Deathstroke, Mira, and Cyborg. Yeah, and it's a cool scene because just prior to that, it was when Deathstroke's on Luthor's yacht, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Luthor says to him, "You're going after Batman. Here's a little tidbit for you. His real name's Bruce Wayne."
Yeah,
and that was supposed to lead into Affleck's standalone
version
Batman film versus Deathstroke.
Cool.
That would have been dope as fuck, but never happened.
Yeah,
but then obviously we see the future means out of necessity he's had to team up with the man and obviously with his mortal enemy as well. It's a cool as shit scene, but again, it's the ultimate tease for something you can't ever have.
It's the ultimate. It is a cool scene in and of itself.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool. Leto is kind of redeeming himself as the Joker. Because I've always had problems with his Joker. I think it's again from a design perspective. I think some odd choices, but he kind of redeems himself in this. But it's within the context of the film. That's that Lord of the Rings thing. You're going, all right, well, it's finished. I don't need this. I don't need the appendices now. I know they're in the book, right? I know that Tolkien wrote another extra 700 pages. I don't need it. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop now.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what this feels like. I'm like, I've had the nightmare vision. We know the future. We don't need this. It kind of feels a bit, superfluous. It doesn't add anything to what the future is going to be. So yeah, it's an odd one. It really is.
Yeah, I know what it was designed to be. It was supposed to be a teaser for Justice League Part 2, but again, it could have, like you said, it doesn't need to be there, particularly because it's a teaser for a film that wasn't ever going to come out.
Yeah.
So why they felt the need to go and film? You can understand them putting it in if they'd filmed it as part of the initial production, and fair enough, show the work. But we know this was filmed after the event, wasn't it? This was when Warner Brothers greenlit. All right, let's get the Snyder cut out. Yeah, give Snyder this money. Finish your film. We owe it to you. Here we go. And so this was filmed extra. You do wonder why that was greenlit, because they knew they were never going to carry on after this.
Yeah,
Warner Brothers were saying they ain't doing any more after this unless false promises were made. Who knows? I won't put it past them. But yeah, it just seems like a terrible. Again, I'm not going to criticize the scene in isolation because I like the people in it, and seeing Joker on the same screen as Batman's always cool as shit, and it's a cool exchange they have as well.
It is. Yeah.
Again, it's the backstory of him alluding to him killing Robin years earlier that we saw in BVS, and then obviously we you know, it's that world building. He mentions that Harley Quinn's been killed now, but she begged Batman with a dying breath that he has to kill
him.
Joker or something. He says, "Oh well, if I can kill you as well." But he's obviously, the situation means he has to team up with these mortal enemies. I like it, but it just, again, it's just been tacked on, hasn't it?
Tacked on is the best way of putting it. It's very tacked on. It's like you go, oh, and this, and you go, oh, cool, thank you. Like, I'm not sure, like, you know, how you want me to respond to this. Yeah, it's fine. I do wonder, you know, to come to the end of this, right? You've done the 4 hours, and you've got to the end of this. You released it. It went on to HBO and did very strong streaming numbers. It was released on Blu-ray and 4K discs, and I think, you know, it was, again, relatively strong physical media purchases, and it's been released on streaming and stuff. So this version, from what I understand, I mean, it didn't have the theatrical release, so it never had the opportunity to make the money of the theatrical cut, but did strong showings. I mean, you know, it's not, you know, this didn't make $1 billion or anything, but it did strong showings. It's kind of weird that the one thing I've always been kind of confused about, and this comes back to the decisions that get made on these things. As you said, as you've alluded to, there is treatments. There are write-ups that say this is what happens in part 2 and part 3. You know, okay, cool. Well, where could we have put those two? We're not gonna spend the money on a big 2 blockbusters. We've done with the DC universe or the DCEU, the Snyderverse. Done. But you've got those write-ups. Yeah, we've got those write-ups. Cool. You own DC Comics, don't you? Yeah, we do own DC Comics. Cool. Could they be 2 12 to 18 issue comic book runs? I'm sure they could make some very good comic book runs. Oh, brilliant. Could you make them into comic book runs then, please? Oh, no, we're not going to do that. That sounds like an awful lot of work. It's something like, this is an insane thing. I don't know if it's too far gone now, but like, if I was sat at a studio somewhere and I'd have been like, right, after this, we're going to release the direct Snyder's cut, and then straight away we are going to set up. We'll bring in someone to help refine those Snyder's treatments into a comic book form, and then we'll and expand the dialogue and whatever. Bring an artist, and we're going to do, I don't know, let's say 12 issues for each one. I mean, that's a pretty good run. That's a maxi series, isn't it? 12 to 18 issues. All right, we're going to do that for part 2, and then we'll do another one for part 3. I guarantee you those comics would have done gangbuster money.
Of course he would. They love leaving money on the table. What can I say?
Don't you think that's insane, though? That you literally have that relationship with DC Comics, and no one said we should turn this into like a. They had the Black Label at the time, like DC was doing the Black Label. Right, here's a Black Label series we're going to do. It blows my mind that they never did this. It's insane to me.
Exactly, and there's an audience for it.
Oh, absolutely.
The audience ain't quiet. We know they're still out there. It doesn't have to find one. There's an audience waiting for it who would lap it up. You know, they could have even gone down the animated film
route. They've done it.
DC were churning out animated films up until recently, like 3 a year.
Yeah,
they all went like direct to Blu-ray and sold well. But if they'd made, they could have made this as 2 and 3 as an animated film.
They've just done a 2-part Watchmen film. Like, you're talking about something. Surely you could have done it. It just feels so sort of wasted as a. It's a shame.
It's a shame. I mean, there's people who think one day this is going to get revisited in live action with the cast coming back, but they're going to age out of it. If not,
well, they already have. I think, like, Affleck's already said, like, I'm done. I'm not doing any more roles like that. Particularly too much sort of, trying to get into that shape at my age is just
exactly. He's north of 50 now, isn't he? And Cavill's in his early 40s as well, which is he's getting too old to be prime Superman. I mean, if they did it, I'd watch it. Of course, I really would. But I think it's safe to say the ship's now sailed for this.
And then and hit an iceberg and sank at this point as well. So.
Oh yeah, it's never we've got what we've got, and it's never coming back.
Yeah,
it's a shame. It's a shame. I really do like Snyder's trilogy, I guess you could call it that, and I like most of the films that go around it, the Wonder Womans and the Aquamans, and not the Flash, but whatever. But Suicide Squad films I enjoyed as well. I did like the DC EU or whatever people like to call it. But when you look back on it, it's just, and particularly within the prism of this film, which is like the centerpiece of it, and obviously it's the thing that everyone still talks about the most, the thing that's going to go down in history the most, as to everything that went around it.
Yeah,
it's just, it's a real shame that they got in their own way. You know? They got in their own way, and they had the world in the palm of their hand. Now, I'm not saying, whether you love Snyder, you hate Snyder, you don't give a shit about Snyder, you think these films are crap, you think these films are great, you're indifferent to them, whatever. It's art, it's all choice, it's all subjective. But it was all there to make something truly special that would have run for years and been cohesive, like the guys over the street at Marvel have done for nearly 20 years at this point. 2008 was the first time.
Yeah, 28.
So 17 years, years and counting, with the next few years mapped out. So we're going to get to 20 years of the MCU before we know it. And they had it all the source materials there, the stories they could have told, the places they could have gone, and they completely fucked it up. And it's a shame. It's a real shame. Thankfully, we get what we're going to get now, and fingers crossed it's good, and fingers crossed they're allowed to make a big universe and make years of these films for the next decade or so. Let's see what they come up with. I mean, I can't wait to see it. I just hope it's good. But it's just a shame. What we had here could have been something very special, and it's just a massive wasted opportunity.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree. I do. I'm so glad that the Snyder Cut got released for those that wanted it. It's so important. I will say before, I'm going to be doing the new Superman soon enough, but I think one thing just sort of to note that's different, and I think is what is the positive. And I think you sort of said, and you're right. I think you and I, we've read an awful lot of DC comics, and not just like Batman and Superman, like or Wonder Woman or whatever, like. We've read other comics within the sort of like the pantheon of the DC universe. Like, I'm a big Constantine fan. I like Swamp Thing. There's those sort of like, you can go off into the magical realms of like Detective Chimp, or like, there's some weird shit out there. Plastic Man. Like, if you really want to go out there and do some weird shit, you can. Yeah. The one thing I'm kind of buoyed by for what Gunn is doing is kind of opening salvo. Yes, it's Superman, but it's also saying like, oh no, this isn't the starting point. Like we're not starting with one and it's going to explode from there. Like, oh no, superheroes have been around for a time, so I can get past the having to do the origin stories of all this stuff. Like, we can just get into this. Like, this thing's they're going to introduce Guy Gardner, like the third Green Lantern. Like,
yeah.
All right, cool. Like, we're going to introduce all those kinds of things. They're going to have Mr. Terrific. We're going to have Hawkgirl. Like, great. We're going to have good. That means that I can then step straight into. They're doing like a Clayface movie, which, from what I hear, sounds kind of like a really cool idea. The things they're going to do, like they're doing all this like other stuff. I'm like, cool. We're not going to have to, start from a standing start. They're really going to throw us in, and I think that. It's going to be interesting, because I don't know whether film attendance ever really results in comics read. But to know that, to know that, like, Mr. Terrific is now going to be a household name, that's kind of cool.
It is, and I like the fact that he's going into the weeds.
Yeah,
so to speak. It'd be very, very easy to go, right, here's Superman. Like, we'll do Batman next, then we'll do Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
we'll do. I like the fact, because we've basically just finished with the previous iterations of those, as we've just discussed. So I like the fact that he's going into the weeds and pulling out characters that are a bit different. And like you said, his universe already exists. You know, we're not joining at ground zero. We're joining years into the DCEU. I think he summed it up well, Gunn, where he said it's almost like the Star Wars universe that he's creating. When Star Wars, the very first Star Wars film, you're not starting at ground zero. You're starting years into the whole story, aren't you? You see, and then you can go back in time and tell older stories. You know, if we get like a World War II set Justice Society film or something like that, I'd love to see that. You know,
Sergeant Rock. Yeah.
Sergeant Rock. That's supposedly happening, isn't it? That was, there's, why just have to tell a linear story that starts, MCU style, where we'll start with the origin of Iron Man, then we'll go to the next character, tell their origin, and then we'll somehow bring them all together. These characters already exist, and so you can take them from any point in their history and go backwards, go forwards, go adjacent with weird characters, and come back. So yeah, I'm optimistic. Time has taught me to be cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
So, that's what I am. I'm not like these people who on social media seem to think like it's the second coming of Christ or something like that.
No,
because it ain't. But the proof's in the pudding. You know, I'm just glad we're getting content at the end of the day. I'm still that kind of kid who grew up in the 80s, was born in the late 70s, grew up in the 80s, who is grateful these things exist. You know, that's why I'll go to the cinema and waste my time and money at the cinema going to see Madam Web and Craven the Hunter. I already know they're not going to be very good, but I'm grateful they exist, so I'll go and see them, because someone made them with the intention of trying to make a good film. No one spends millions making a pile of shit on purpose. So I'm still grateful they exist. So I'll be there no matter what.
I think you and I come from that sort of, we've come up in that generation, haven't we? Where, like, you
had nothing.
And what we got was always a little bit iffy. You're like, and so I think we've now got to the point where you're right. We're going like, we've got what? We've got, oh my God, they're going to do that. Brilliant. Like, cool. I'm in on that. So I'm with you. I'm cautiously optimistic. From what I've seen, I'm liking what I see. But like you say, I'm not like, it's not going to go on a pedestal just yet. Let's see how good it is. But this has been amazing. I mean, this is it. We've done it. We did Man of Steel. We did BVS, and now I've done the Justice League, and it's been a really fascinating journey through that. And as a side piece, I also did Sucker Punch, which 2011, so it kind of fits into the sort of that period, which was interesting. And I can kind of see what you could watch in that film, and then watching Man of Steel, which came out 2013, wasn't it? Yeah,
13. Yeah.
I watched Sucker Punch, and having watched Man of Steel, and you go like, oh, he really brought some of those ideas. Wicked. Like, I can totally see how that came about. So, Sucker Punch. If you do get a chance, there's an extended version. Watch that. Anyway,
there's always an extended version where Snyder's concerned.
There's a theatrical cut, there's a released extended edition, and then there's an unreleased director's cut, which is supposed to have at least a further 20 to 30 minutes worth of footage. So
maybe we'll get it one day.
Not sure I want that one, but that's fine. Anyway, right. Max, thank you very much for joining me on this journey. I really appreciate it. It's been
thank you for having me on. Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's been great.
Absolute pleasure and a privilege to appear on your show, Scott. I'm a big fan, as you know, so thanks so much for having me on. It's been great.
No, it's been great, and just pushing the discussion and having this sort of, it's always good to have someone who knows the know. So to have that conversation and stuff it's been good. So thank you very much. And again, just to remind everyone, where can people find you and what you're doing?
Find me on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it these days, for those who are still on there. You can find at Maxi Byrne, MAXYBYRNE. Just go on there. That's my profile. There's the links to the various comic sites I write reviews for and things of that nature. So, hop on there. I'll be there.
Wonderful. Yeah, go check it out. And of course, this is it now. We're almost at the peak of the mountain. This is it. We're up to date. So the next episode, we will be talking about, I'm not sure who we're going to have yet. I haven't chosen a guest or anything. I haven't sort of asked anyone, but we're going to be talking about the brand new James Gunn Superman for 2025, and let's see how that goes. But for now, Max, thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us, and we shall see you all on the next episode.